This Haniwa clay model of a horse came from Honshu or Kyushu area of Japan in the 6th century. Haniwa figures had been buried on tombs with the military owner. These tombs were really on a very grand scale, and some of them were similar in size to a football pitch.
Some of Japan's oldest structures predate written history, and their scale raises a chilling question. What kind of civilization could build this? Across Japan, thousands of massive prehistoric tombs and stone structures stretch across the landscape, many of them older than the earliest written records. Their scale is extraordinary, their origins obscure, and their interiors remain sealed by strict cultural protections. These sites present a mystery large enough to unsettle even seasoned archaeologists, because every clue we uncover suggests a far more complex ancient society than previously imagined. Follow along as we uncover why Japan's prehistoric megastructures and unexcavated tombs continue to puzzle and intimidate the world's leading researchers. The discovery that changed everything. Picture this scene from 1970. A farmer in Asuka village was digging a simple hole to store ginger when his shovel struck something hard. What he discovered would become one of Japan's greatest archaeological treasures. 2 years later, in 1972, when researchers finally opened the Takamatsuzuka tomb, they found something extraordinary waiting in the darkness. Inside the burial chamber, painted walls burst with colors that had survived nearly 13 centuries. The frescoes showed elegant court ladies holding frilled parasols, mythical dragons, white tigers, and celestial maps with golden suns and silver moons. These were not just pretty pictures. They revealed stunning connections between ancient Japan and continental cultures that historians had only suspected existed. The discovery created headlines worldwide. News outlets called it the biggest archaeological find in Japan since World War II. Within months, nearly 2 million people descended upon tiny Asuka village, a place with just 10,000 residents. The paintings showed that Japan's early rulers were deeply influenced by Chinese and Korean cultures during a period when very few written records existed. These walls spoke louder than any ancient text ever could. Mountains made by human hands. Standing in modern Osaka, you might spot what looks like a forested island rising from the urban landscape. This is no natural hill. The Daisen Kofun stretches roughly 490 meters in length and covers more surface area than the Great Pyramid of Giza. Let that sink in for a moment. The largest tomb on Earth sits in the middle of a bustling Japanese city. Building this monument required moving approximately 1.64 million cubic meters of soil. Estimates suggest 2,000 workers labored continuously for 16 years to complete just this single tomb. Local legends tell of something even more fascinating. According to these stories, humans worked during daylight hours, while the gods themselves worked through the night to build these magnificent structures. These keyhole-shaped tombs dot the landscape between Osaka and Nara. More than 160,000 kofun have been found across Japan as of recent surveys. The Motsu Furuichi Kofun Group earned UNESCO World Heritage status in 2019, recognizing its global importance. Yet, despite this recognition, most remain mysteries, wrapped in earth and vegetation. The scale of construction becomes even more staggering when you consider the technology available at the time. Workers had only the most basic tools, simple wooden implements, woven baskets, and human muscle power. They moved earth one basket at a time, shaped massive mounds with incredible precision, and created perfectly symmetrical designs visible only from the sky. The logistics alone boggle the mind. How did ancient leaders organize, feed, and house thousands of workers for years or even decades? What kind of social structure allowed such massive projects to happen? The keyhole mystery. Why did ancient Japanese builders choose this distinctive keyhole shape? The design combines a circular mound with a rectangular front section, creating a form that looks exactly like an old-fashioned key when viewed from above. This unique architectural style appears nowhere else in the ancient world with such consistency. Some researchers believe the circular portion represented the heavens, while the square section symbolized the earth. Others think the shape evolved from practical construction needs, allowing easier access to burial chambers while maximizing the impressive visual impact. The truth is that nobody knows for certain why this specific design became so dominant during the Kofun period. What makes this even more intriguing is that similar keyhole shapes appear in other ancient cultures. Sardinia has keyhole tombs, though they differ significantly in construction. Saudi Arabia's deserts contain mysterious keyhole geoglyphs called the Works of the Old Men, dating back between 2,000 and 9,000 years. The function and meaning of these structures remain unknown. Could there be some deeper symbolic meaning to this shape that transcended cultures? The evolution of Kofun shapes tells another interesting story. Earlier burial mounds were simpler, often just circular or square platforms. Then suddenly, during the 4th century, the keyhole design exploded in popularity among the elite. Within just a few generations, this specific shape became the standard for important burials across a vast region. Was this a fashion trend among ancient rulers, each trying to outdo their predecessors? Or did the shape carry such powerful symbolic meaning that everyone wanted to be buried in this exact configuration? Engineering marvels that baffle modern experts. The Ishibutai Kofun presents one of the most puzzling engineering achievements of ancient Japan. This structure consists of 30 massive stones, with the largest ceiling slab weighing approximately 77 tons. Another ceiling stone weighs around 60 tons. These granite megaliths came from Mount Lamine, located roughly 3 kilometers away from the construction site. How did workers without modern machinery transport stones weighing as much as several school buses? Historians suggest they used wooden rollers, ropes, and pulleys, but actually demonstrating these methods with such massive weights remains challenging. The stones fit together with remarkable precision, creating a burial chamber that can comfortably hold 20 to 30 people. The construction technique itself raises questions. Workers had to dig deep trenches, position upright stones, build earth ramps to the top of these standing stones, then somehow move the massive ceiling slabs into place. After positioning everything perfectly, they removed the earth and constructed the outer mound. The engineering knowledge required suggests a level of technological sophistication that challenges our understanding of this period. What really puzzles engineers today is the precision involved in the stone placement. The ceiling stones rest on upright pillars with minimal contact points, yet they've remained stable for over 1,400 years through countless earthquakes. Japan sits on one of the most seismically active zones on the planet. Modern buildings require sophisticated engineering to survive major quakes, yet these ancient stone chambers, built without mortar or metal fasteners, have weathered centuries of geological violence. What engineering principles did these ancient builders understand that allowed such remarkable stability? The government's iron grip. Here's where things get really interesting. The Imperial Household Agency controls access to 188 Kofun sites throughout Japan. These tombs, designated as imperial graves, remain strictly off-limits to independent researchers. Before 1900, local people freely entered these grounds to collect firewood and enjoy cherry blossom viewing. Today, even members of the imperial family are forbidden entry, except for specific worship purposes. Archaeologists have been requesting access to these tombs since 1976. The agency repeatedly states that research may be possible, but excavation is absolutely not permitted. Their reasoning centers on maintaining the tranquility and dignity of these sacred spaces. Religious ceremonies still take place at these locations, they argue, making disruption unacceptable. In 2008, a breakthrough finally occurred. 16 representatives from various academic organizations gained permission to enter the grounds of an imperial tomb for the first time in 130 years. They were not allowed to excavate, but they did discover previously unknown terracotta Haniwa figures. This tiny glimpse only made researchers hungrier for more access. Then, in 2018, the first dedicated excavation took place at Daisen Kofun, conducted jointly with the Sakai municipal government. Still, researchers only examined the outer edges, nowhere near the actual burial chamber. What are they hiding? Why does the Japanese government maintain such tight control over these ancient burial sites? Researchers and historians have developed several theories. some more controversial than others. The most explosive suggestion is that excavation might reveal uncomfortable truths about the imperial bloodline. Could these tombs prove that early Japanese emperors had Korean ancestry? Some scholars believe this fear drives the reluctance to allow excavation. American historian John Dower has argued that those opposing archaeological work want to perpetuate the myth of an unbroken imperial bloodline, stretching back to mythical origins. DNA evidence or Korean artifacts inside these tombs could completely rewrite official history. Another possibility is equally embarrassing for the imperial household agency. Many tomb designations happened during the Edo period, between roughly 1688 and 1864. These assignments were based on limited historical records and considerable guesswork. Excavation might prove that many tombs don't actually contain the emperors they're supposed to. Imagine the bureaucratic nightmare of admitting centuries of mistakes about who lies where. There's also the question of what else might be buried alongside these ancient rulers. Historical records mention incredible treasures, including bronze mirrors, jade jewelry, iron weapons, and gold ornaments. Some legends speak of cursed objects or items with supernatural powers that should never see daylight again. While modern scientists dismiss such tales, the cultural weight of these stories influences decision-making. Additionally, opening tombs could reveal evidence of human sacrifice or burial practices that clash with the dignified image authorities prefer to maintain about Japan's imperial history. The Haniwa Guardians. Walking around the perimeter of ancient Kofun sites, visitors can still find evidence of the terracotta sentinels that once stood guard. Haniwa figures are hollow clay sculptures that were placed around burial mounds during the Kofun period. These were not tucked inside the tombs like grave goods. They stood proudly on top of and around the mounds, visible to all who approached. The earliest Haniwa were simple cylinders, possibly serving as markers to define the sacred boundary of the burial ground. By the late 4th century, these evolved into more complex forms, including houses, boats, and ceremonial objects. Then came the most fascinating development in the 5th and 6th centuries. Haniwa craftsmen began creating detailed human and animal figures. These figures provide an incredible window into ancient Japanese life. Warrior Haniwa wear elaborate armor and carry weapons, showing us exactly what military equipment looked like 1500 years ago. Female figures display the clothing, jewelry, and hairstyles of court ladies. Horse Haniwa reveal the sophisticated tack and equipment used for riding. Some figures even show musicians playing instruments or farmers with their tools. Because of the limited written records from this period, these clay guardians serve as our most reliable historical archive of how people actually lived, dressed, and worked. The craftsmanship of these figures demonstrates remarkable artistic skill. Some Haniwa display facial expressions ranging from serious warriors to smiling entertainers. Details like armor straps, sword decorations, and clothing patterns were carefully sculpted into the clay before firing. The largest Haniwa stood over 1.5 meters tall and would have been imposing guardians on the tomb slopes. Archaeologists estimate that Major Kofun might have been surrounded by hundreds or even thousands of these figures, creating an army of clay protectors encircling the burial mound. What a spectacular sight that must have been. Legends of divine construction. Ancient Japanese mythology intertwines deeply with these burial mounds. According to tradition, the imperial family descends directly from the sun goddess Amaterasu, making emperors living deities on Earth. This divine bloodline belief system, central to Shinto religion, gives these tombs a sacred status that goes far beyond simple historical interest. Local legends surrounding Kofun construction add another layer of mystery. Stories passed down through generations claim that supernatural forces assisted in building the largest mounds. The tale of gods working alongside humans at night suggests these monuments were seen as collaborative projects between the earthly and divine realms. Some Haniwa figures were believed to house protective spirits that would guard the tomb and its occupant. Warriors equipped with weapons and armor would drive away evil spirits and protect the buried ruler from supernatural calamity. Animal-shaped Haniwa arranged in neat lines might have been part of ceremonial processions, sending the deceased on their journey to the afterlife. These were not just decorative sculptures, they served vital spiritual functions in a society deeply concerned with honoring the dead and appeasing ancestral spirits. The Takamatsuzuka revelation. Let's return to that incredible 1972 discovery because it deserves more attention. When researchers first entered Takamatsuzuka tomb, they found plaster walls in remarkable condition. The chamber measured a modest 2.6 meters by 1.9 meters, with a height of just 1.1 meters. Small but stunning. The eastern wall showed male courtiers, an azure dragon, a golden sun, and elegant female figures. The western wall displayed the mirror image with male courtiers, a white tiger, a silver moon, and more female figures. The northern wall featured a black tortoise. The southern wall likely once showed a vermilion bird, but tomb robbers during the Kamakura period destroyed that section. The ceiling contained a complete star map, with constellations connected by vermilion lines. At the center sat the 5 stars of the North Pole, surrounded by 28 traditional constellations. This celestial map reveals sophisticated astronomical knowledge. The figures wore clothing styles clearly influenced by the Goguryeo kingdom on the Korean peninsula. Every detail pointed to extensive cultural exchange between ancient Japan and continental Asia during a period historians call the Kofun era. The artistic technique used in these paintings shows remarkable sophistication. Artists applied multiple layers of plaster to create smooth surfaces, then used mineral-based pigments that have retained their brilliance for 13 centuries. The female figures especially capture attention with their flowing robes and graceful poses. Their garments feature patterns and colors that match descriptions in ancient Chinese texts about court fashion. The astronomical ceiling proves that whoever commissioned this tomb possessed detailed knowledge of Chinese star charts and cosmology. These were not crude paintings slapped on walls. They represented the pinnacle of artistic achievement during their time. Tombs under threat. Modern preservation presents its own set of challenges. The Takamatsuzuka paintings, despite surviving 13 centuries in darkness, began deteriorating rapidly once exposed to air. Mold growth became such a serious problem that authorities considered the drastic step of dismantling the entire stone chamber and reassembling it elsewhere. Unlike the nearby Kora tomb, where wall plaster could be carefully removed in pieces for conservation, Takamatsuzuka's plaster contained numerous tiny cracks. This fragility made standard preservation techniques nearly impossible to apply. The tomb had to be sealed again to prevent complete loss of the paintings. Urban development poses another threat. The Mozu Kofun cluster sits in the middle of Sakai City, surrounded by houses, shops, and busy streets. During the 20th century, roughly half of the original 100-plus tombs in this cluster were lost to development and erosion. Only strong legal protection under Japanese cultural property laws and recent UNESCO World Heritage designation have prevented further destruction. These ancient monuments must now coexist with modern city life, creating constant tension between preservation and progress. Recent discoveries that complicate everything. Japanese archaeology is not frozen in time. New discoveries continue to emerge, often raising more questions than they answer. In 2023, excavations in Nara uncovered a sword and shield unlike any previously found. The artifacts suggest the existence of an unknown clan, possibly a rival to the powerful Yamato court that supposedly unified early Japan. This discovery challenges the traditional narrative of a smooth transition to centralized imperial rule. Maybe the Kofun period was messier, more competitive, and more politically complex than official histories suggest. Were there rival kingdoms fighting for control? Did multiple powerful clans compete rather than cooperate? Without access to the sealed imperial tombs, researchers can only speculate. The 150-year gap in Japanese history, when the archipelago mysteriously disappeared from Chinese historical texts, might hold crucial answers. This period coincides with major Kofun construction. Some researchers believe the legendary kingdom of Yamataikoku, mentioned in Chinese records but never definitively located, might be connected to these burial mounds. Opening more tombs could finally solve this ancient mystery but current restrictions make that impossible. The future of Japan's buried secrets. So what happens next? The Imperial Household Agency shows small signs of increased openness, though progress remains glacial by international standards. The 2008 inspection and 2018 limited excavation represent tiny steps forward after decades of complete closure. Some experts hope that, as older, more conservative officials retire, younger bureaucrats might prove more receptive to scientific inquiry, balanced with respect for cultural significance. The generational shift within the agency could potentially bring new perspectives on how to honor tradition, while acknowledging legitimate scholarly interest. International pressure continues to build as well. Foreign archaeologists and historians increasingly express frustration with the restrictions, particularly given Japan's leadership role in other areas of cultural preservation and heritage management. The contrast between Japan's meticulous restoration of temples and shrines and its complete avoidance of its most significant archaeological sites strikes many observers as contradictory. Some scholars argue that allowing research would actually enhance Japan's cultural prestige rather than diminish it. New technologies offer hope for less invasive research methods that could satisfy both scientists and traditionalists. Ground-penetrating radar, electromagnetic surveys, LiDAR mapping, and other remote sensing techniques can reveal what lies beneath without disturbing the tombs themselves or requiring excavation. These tools have successfully mapped burial chambers, detected artifacts, and identified structural features in archaeological sites worldwide. From Egyptian pyramids to Mayan temples, Japan could benefit from similar approaches if authorities permitted their use, potentially unlocking secrets while leaving the physical tombs untouched and preserving their sanctity. Some researchers propose compromise solutions that might break the current impasse. Limited, carefully supervised studies of smaller coffin tombs could establish protocols and build trust before approaching the most sensitive imperial sites. Joint projects pairing Imperial Household Agency officials with respected archaeologists might create a framework for respectful investigation. Others suggest starting with comprehensive external surveys and documentation before even considering any physical access. These incremental approaches acknowledge the legitimacy of both scientific curiosity and cultural concerns. Japan's Kofun tombs stand as silent monuments to a mysterious past, guarding secrets that could transform our understanding of ancient civilization. These massive earthen structures, larger than Egypt's pyramids, remain mostly sealed and unexplored. Government restrictions, preservation challenges, and cultural sensitivities create barriers that researchers struggle to overcome. Yet, each small discovery, from painted tomb walls to warrior sculptures, reveals glimpses of a sophisticated society that flourished 15 centuries ago. What other secrets lie buried beneath those forested mounds? Only time and perhaps changing attitudes will tell. What do you think is really buried inside Japan's sealed imperial tombs? Share your thoughts in the comments below.